What's good, sports fans? Are you ready to elevate your live entertainment experience? Well, let me introduce you to SeatGeek, an amazing platform that connects you to your favorite events while saving you money. With SeatGeek, you can easily find tickets for sports games, concerts, and so much more, all in one place. The interface is user-friendly, making it simple to browse and compare prices. And one of the best features is the interactive seating chart. You can see exactly where you'll be sitting and how much you'll be spending, ensuring you get the best value for your money. But here's the best part. Check this out. By using my promo code, ChalkItUpSports, you can enjoy a one-time $20 discount on your first SeatGeek order. That's right, $20 off your first SeatGeek order. Imagine catching that thrilling game or concert without breaking the bank. It's a win-win situation. Plus, you'll be a part of a community of fans who eat, sleep, and breathe live events just as much as you do. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description to download the SeatGeek app today. And don't forget to use my promo code ChalkItUpSports for a one-time $20 discount on your first SeatGeek order. Get excited. Now let's get back to the show. Yeah. What's good? This is your boy, Tone DeShields the second. You guys are locked in on your dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. I appreciate you guys. You guys have truly been phenomenal. As always, make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys hit that hype button as well. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel and got that notification bell turned on. You feel me? On top of that, you can also catch the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. You feel what I'm saying? Make sure you guys double back, man. You guys are truly phenomenal and truly a part of this community. So I do not take it for granted. Again, make sure you guys smash that like button and make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. All right. Look, we got some things to get into. I have a special guest coming on in about 25 minutes or so. Can't wait to have him on. Let's really get to the shenanigans. Let's not really waste too much time here in regards to what we're here to talk about. First and foremost, I kind of want to just do a temperature check with you guys as it pertains to the Philadelphia Eagles season. Now, we all know the Philadelphia Eagles season didn't necessarily start the way they anticipated it started, right? Obviously, they expect themselves to be 4-0, right? Let's just look at it from that perspective, right? I kind of broke the season down into a few increments here, right? Some people like to look at it on a 4-game by 4-game basis, so on and so forth. I like to do that as well, but this Eagles season has had its fair share of ups and downs, to say the least, through the first 8 weeks of the season. The Eagles are currently on their bye week in week 9. So they're going to be on ice. They're going to be chilling this week. No Eagles football this week. They will be back in week 10 to face the Green Bay Packers. But again, I say this Eagles team had their fair share of issues coming into the season and throughout the season that you guys did not pull your punches about, and neither did I, right? Now, granted, full transparency, I was very measured the first few weeks, right? I was very patient, or at least I tried to be very patient with the idea that the Eagles have a new offensive coordinator, right? Your defense is significantly younger than they were last year. You lost a lot of talented guys on defense. For the most part, you got everybody back on offense. You're only missing one guy. That's Mekhi Becton, and he took the money with the Chargers, so I can't really get mad at him. But you brought everybody back on offense. Defense, you had to, loosen some bolts, tighten some screws. You know what I mean? You had to go cheap in certain areas. You had to bet on certain guys, whether they panned out or not. That's another part of the conversation. But the Philadelphia Eagles had their fair share of questions that needed to be answered coming into the season. One of the lingering questions was CB2, right? And to this day, it's still a question. But they found ways to get themselves to a 6-2 record in spite of that. But the first 4 weeks, you had the Dallas Cowboys at Lincoln Financial Field at home, right? That game came down to the wire. Divisional game, banner night. It didn't start the way we anticipated. Jalen Carter gets ejected for spitting on Dak Prescott. Although Dak Prescott spit in his direction first, that's beside the point. The reality is you were already starting the season behind the 8 ball because Jalen Carter couldn't keep the loogie away from Dak Prescott. Nonetheless, you win the game. Your offense started off slow. You didn't have the greatest running game from a running back perspective. Saquon was kind of quiet, but you still won the game. Jalen Hurts carried the team for the most part. The defense pitched a shutout in the second half, right? So you won the game. You start the season 1-0. Then the following season, you got to go to Kansas City and face your Super Bowl rivals in the Kansas City Chiefs. That game came down to the wire. And again, your offense, your passing game, your running game was very up and down, very inconsistent. Yet you overcame it and you won the game. So now you're 2-0. Then you get to the Rams game where you were getting demolished in the first half. Demolished. And all of a sudden, you come out with this explosive second half performance from your passing game. Jalen Hurts goes crazy. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith go crazy. You just had a stellar performance from that offense in the second half. Again, your running game was non-existent, and you put yourself in like a 19-point, 20-point deficit. That's a place you don't want to be in, but nonetheless, you win the game. You come back. You're 3-0 now. Then the Buccaneers game. You started off hot. You blocked the punt, scored a touchdown off of it. You were cooking in the first half. Second half, you go cold. Defense has to carry you the rest of the way. So now we're talking the tale of two halves. Nonetheless, you're still 4-0. Then we get to another portion of the season, the 0-2 portion. The 2-game losing streak where you lose to the Broncos and you lose to the Giants. Both games, your offense was only able to generate 17 points. Both games, your offense had strong halves, but didn't have a complete game. They got embarrassed by the Broncos in the fourth quarter, and they got embarrassed by the Cowboys in the second half. No running game that was consistent. The passing game was coming along. Jalen Hurts had, I want to say, well over 200 yards in both of those games passing. Almost 300 yards in one of those games passing. Right? Still, the offense wasn't clicking. Then you get to the Vikings game. You get to the 2-0 stretch. Eagles beat Vikings on the road. Eagles get their revenge against the Giants at home. Your passing game looked the best. Look is looking as good as it's ever been. Jalen Hurts looks phenomenal, right? Saquon Barkley comes alive in that Giants game. The first game of the year where Saquon Barkley goes over 100 yards. The first game of the year where Eagles have a 100-yard rusher. You see what I'm the picture I'm trying to paint here is that this season we've experienced a lot in a short amount of time. And a lot of our grievances have been warranted, right? Even throughout this process, you've had A.J. Brown voicing his concerns, right? You've had Devontae Smith voicing his concerns. Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Jalen Hurts. You had players voicing their concerns with the direction of the team. But now it seems like everyone is pulling in the right direction for the most part. There's still some questions left to be answered about A.J. Brown's situation. We're going to talk more about that because an article came out. An article came out today written by Brooks Kubina of The Athletic. He's a Philadelphia Eagles beat reporter for The Athletic by way of the New York Times. He had a conversation with A.J. Brown and was able to really get A.J. Brown's thoughts down on paper. We're going to talk about that. But again, I'm trying to paint a picture here for you guys that I wonder if we overreacted to these Eagles issues to start the season. Again, the season is halfway done. You're 8 games in. You're 6-2. I think you are in a great position if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. You're in a fantastic position if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, if you ask me. Right? So you're 6-2. You started 4-0. You had a 2-game losing streak. You got punched in the mouth. You woke up. You got back up off the mat. Now you're 2-0 going into the bye. You're 6-2. I think this is prime real estate for the Philadelphia Eagles, all things considered. And even I lost my mind after that Broncos game. I lost my mind after that Giants game. I was livid because this team was not playing up to their potential and they were playing down to the competition. And you were asking yourself, these guys have been playing too long together for them to look this inept. So logic would have you that logic would push you to the brink of frustration, but logic will also push you to the brink of, hey, these guys are going to have to figure it out at some point, right? That's something I kept saying to myself. Hey, they're too good. They're too decorated as a team to not be able to figure this out. I just found it hard to believe that we would have to endure 17 games of mediocre football. And let's be frank about this. The defense, I don't think the defense has been playing that bad. Obviously, the defense had its lowest points in that fourth quarter against the Broncos. It had a low point in that Giants game. But I don't think this defense has been playing awful. I think they've played good enough for this offense to win games. Now, last year, the Eagles were led by their defense. Obviously, Saquon did what he did, but that defense was, in my opinion, they were led by their defense last year. This year, it looks like they're going to have to be led a little bit more by their offense, but their defense has proven that they can get key stops and key moments and also take the ball away, right? They've proven that. They're really good in the red zone. They're proven that they're good situationally. They still got to improve third down-wise, but they've proven they're really good situationally, and guys elevate their play. And they're talented and they're athletic and they can run side to sideline. And, they're dynamic, but they're young. And Vic Fangio does have his hands full, in particular with that cornerback 2 position. The Eagles did trade for a corner, Michael Carter II. He's a cornerback formerly with the Jets. He spent most of his career playing in the slot. And he's a guy that's battled injuries over the past year and a half. But when he's healthy, he's good. He's good at what he does. So his presence being added to the fold, it begs the question, okay, does that mean we're going to see more Cooper DeJean on the outside? That's entirely possible. But I will say this, though. It's much easier to find a reliable nickel than it is to find a starting quality outside corner. Starting quality outside corners are not easy to come by. They're difficult to find. They're not like they don't just grow on trees. They don't just fall from the sky, right? They're hard to find. They're hard to draft. They're hard to develop. Corners are hard to find. So it was of course fans wanted the position to improve, but it was unrealistic for us to really say to ourselves, they gotta find somebody to replace Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo right now. It takes 2 teams to tango for a trade, for one, and for 2, it's not that easy finding guys that play at the level Quinyon plays at, right? It's not that easy finding guys like that play at the level Cooper DeJean is playing at. But if you could find a guy who's a steady nickel, which will provide you versatility in case you need to put Cooper DeJean on the outside, then you're in business. So we'll see how the move pans out. But again, overall, I'm looking at what the Eagles have been enduring the past several weeks. And even through the setbacks, through the trials, through the tribulations, this team still hasn't forgotten how to win. And they still haven't forgotten how to flip the switch, right? They still have that championship pedigree. They still have that championship DNA. This team is well equipped to deal with any and everything. They're battle tested. They've experienced the highs of the highs, the lows of the lows. So again, did we overreact Did we overreact to the Eagles' early season struggles? Here's my answer to that question. No, I don't think we did. I don't think we did in hindsight. Because when you think about the Philadelphia Eagles and what their problems were rooted in, you see, I don't think we overreacted. I think our frustration was misguided. Does that make sense to you guys? I don't think the sentiment was wrong of us. I don't think anybody was wrong in saying, hey, this Eagles team is not playing up to snuff. This Eagles team is not playing at the level they're supposed to be playing at. This Eagles team is too talented and too expensive to be playing the way they're playing. I think that is a significantly logical statement. I think that is rooted in truth. But again, I say, I don't think we overreacted. I think the frustration was misguided because you saw people trying to point the finger. Hey, Kevin Patullo, he doesn't know what he's doing. Hey, Jalen Hurts, we knew he was overrated. A.J. Brown is a distraction. Right? The Eagles are missing Mekhi Becton. Like, there were so many narratives, right? Saquon Barkley, he's washed. We knew that 2,000-yard season would kill him. I think the overreaction, the animosity, the animus was misguided. I think whenever we tried to criticize Kevin Patullo or criticize Jalen Hurts, we ignored the source. As a collective, we ignored the source. Now, that's not to say that you, as an individual, didn't know what was going on, but maybe your neighbor next to you didn't understand. Maybe you understood what was going on with the Eagles. Maybe your neighbor didn't. But the reality is their issues from beginning up until their game against the Giants was offensive line play. That was the problem. They were getting lackluster, piss poor offensive line play from week 1 up until before that Giants game. That's a fact. It doesn't matter how talented you are. Doesn't matter who you have at running back. Doesn't matter who you have at quarterback or wide receiver. If your offensive line is not doing their job at the level that you're used to them doing it at, if they're not answering the call, you can't beat anybody. So it's actually remarkable that the Philadelphia Eagles were able to overcome how bad the offensive line was playing to a 4-0 record. It's remarkable. It's remarkable that they found themselves in a 2-game losing streak, and they had to find a way to right the ship going on the road to Minnesota against the number 1 pass defense, number 2 pass defense. And now they're on a 2-game winning streak going into the bye week. Hopefully with those issues behind them. And it looks like it is. The passing game is looking better than it has all year. The running game has figured itself out. The Eagles have started to establish a rhythm and a rhyme and reason to what they do. Again, I don't think we overreacted. I think our reaction was a bit misguided. Again, I say maybe you knew the offensive line was the problem. Maybe your neighbor didn't. Maybe your neighbor is a surface viewer, is a surface watcher. Maybe your neighbor said, hey, Kevin Patullo doesn't know what he's doing. Hey, maybe your neighbor said Jalen Hurts is overrated. Maybe your neighbor said, Saquon's washed. Maybe your neighbor's been saying, A.J. Brown, we got to get rid of that guy. But the reality was your offensive line, the most reliable crew on that team, wasn't doing their job. I was talking to Barrett Brooks last night. Me and my man, Coach Marcus, shout out to Marcus Thomas from Pro Fan Talk. Me and the good brother have an amazing podcast called the Bald Eagles Podcast. If you guys haven't checked in on that, definitely do so. But me and my man Marcus, we was talking about it with Barrett Brooks last night. You know, Barrett Brooks, Super Bowl champion, former Philadelphia Eagle. You know what I mean? He said it was a mindset change. There was a shift in the mindset. And I'm going to get to our super chats, trust me. He said there was a mindset change. He said being an offensive lineman is all about mindset. Because the reality is what the Eagles do offensively isn't necessarily complicated. Running the ball isn't complicated. Deciding to kick the other guy's ass across from you is. And sometimes when you're so used to being the bully, you expect people to just roll over. And losing to the Broncos the way they did and losing to the Giants the way they did was a crude reminder that anybody can get touched in this league. And no player, no team is above feeling themselves. This Eagles team was feeling themselves coming into the season. It's entirely possible. You're the Super Bowl champs. You dominated the Chiefs. You slayed the dragon that nobody can slay. I would feel super confident in myself as well. I would feel ultra confident in myself if I beat the bully that y'all was all scared of. Imagine that. Imagine you coming to the school. Everybody's scared of that bully over there. Everybody's scared of him. And you come in like, yo, who's the guy here? And everybody like, yo, listen, nobody messes with TJ, man. Nobody messes with Big Tej. Nah, nobody. Big Tej, he run a lot. He run the schoolyard. Okay. Where he at? He over there? You walk him down and you rock him. You still him. Put him down. Now, everybody looking at you like, oh, is this the new guy we supposed to be scared of? And you like, yeah, you should be. I run the schoolyard now. But eventually, the school year comes to an end. And eventually, school is back in session. And everybody else that you was beating up on all year, everybody that you was beating up on at the end of the year, they had a good summer. They was working out with their uncle in the basement. They was shadow boxing. They was studying your tape. They were studying all your tells, all your weaknesses, all the flaws and complexities to your game. They were studying you. So now the school year starts back up and you walk in thinking that you got shit made. You walk in thinking, ain't nobody touching me. In those first 4 weeks of the school year, hey, somebody tried you. They came close, but you still got the job done. Then week 5, week 6 of the school year, oh, you get caught lacking. You didn't just get caught lacking once. You got caught lacking twice. Now everybody looking at you funny like, whoa, is you really still that guy? That's the narrative of the Philadelphia Eagles. And they had to remind people that, hey, we still do this. And they had to remind people and remind themselves, actually, that you got to prove it every single year, every single week, because every team is looking to use you as the measuring stick. I told you guys this in the offseason. Every team is going to use the Philadelphia Eagles as the measuring stick. They're going to use the Philadelphia Eagles as an opportunity to gauge whether or not they're a contender or not, or whether or not they're reaching their goals. And I said to you guys, the Philadelphia Eagles can't let that happen. They can't let that happen. They have to continuously prove to themselves and everybody else that they still run this game. And yes, they still have a lot left to prove. They still got a lot more work to do. It's only midway through the season. This thing is a marathon. And I think that's what I'm trying to get across to everybody. Even through the overreactions, even through the feelings we had about this offense, this team, the coaching, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And you have teams who shot their load early, like the Jaguars, like the Chargers, and now they look like they're treading water a bit. You got teams like the Eagles, teams like the Lions and the Packers and so on and so forth who are starting to hitting their stride, right? But the Eagles, that's the team, in my opinion, that when they're at their best, ain't nobody messing with them. They're the team. They're the team. And again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. But the struggles that they were experiencing in those first 6 weeks were legitimate. And your reaction was legitimate. But I think it was slightly misguided. Let me get to the super chats here, you guys. Our guest should be here in a few minutes. I can't wait to bring this guy on, man. I'm pretty excited about this one. I'm pretty excited about this guest here we have. All right. My man Dre with the super chat. Thank you with the $4.99 donation, Dre. He says Kevin Patullo was being stubborn in the beginning. After the 2 losses, he finally listened to players. Brandon Graham got the defense fired up right now. Hey, listen, it's entirely possible Kevin Patullo has been hard-headed the first 6 weeks of the season. I'm actually on record saying he looks like a smug son of a gun in some of those press conferences. And I was saying to myself, how can you sit here in these press conferences and keep saying the things you're saying when the product is what the product is, right? Like, everybody knew that you needed to switch things up. Everybody knew that you needed to do something to offset what these defenses were doing to you. You were spending too much time in the shotgun. You were predictable. And I don't mean predictable as far as the concepts. Like, the Eagles don't run an overly complex offense. But what was predictable was your tendencies, when you would run, when you would pass, your formations, your alignments. That's what was predictable, right? What people knew what was coming. But when you mix in that play action, in particular the play action under center, with the running game and Saquon doing what he does and allowing him to build up ahead of steam, it creates opportunities. It creates opportunities for everyone else. So again, Kevin Patullo, I would agree he was stubborn. He was stubborn the first several weeks. Now we're seeing things pan out. Let me get to the super chat here real quick, and we're going to bring our guest on. Miss Fanny says, it's not overreacting. We're just spoiled. We got that first Super Bowl in 17-18, and we haven't accepted mediocre talent or coaching ever since. It's a thirst for hunger. That's tantamount to a salivating dog with a steak waved in his face. Fanny, you talking? You waxing poetic right now. I actually agree with you, and I can't wait to ask my guest this question, because I think Eagles fans are a little spoiled, and I think even more so they're a little insecure with success. So we're going to talk about that, though. Last super chat that we're getting to our guest, Linda Washington with the super chat. Thank you, Linda. She says, Howie traded Mechie for a new corner from the Jets. CJ is now with the Bears. Your thoughts? Or we're going to get to that. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. But in the meantime here, I'm pretty excited for this guest, man. I reached out to him rather quickly, and he got back to me even faster, man. I got to show a lot of love to this guy, man. He's been super responsive, and I'm super grateful for his time. This guy brings in over 15 years of journalism and broadcasting on his resume. He's currently a sports columnist for the esteemed Philadelphia Tribune, covering the Philadelphia Eagles, 76ers, the Phillies, and more. Also for the Tribune, this brother pens and provides thought-provoking news and stories that directly affect the community and reflects the Philadelphia culture. He's also a contributor for CityCast Philly and previously wrote for Anscape, also known as The Undefeated, via ESPN. He's an award-winning sports writer and columnist who's also a member of the National Association of Black Journalists and the Pro Football Writers of America. He's a man of the people and one of the most respected voices and pens in the game, covering your Philadelphia Eagles, making his Chalk It Up Sports debut. Let us welcome the good brother, OJ Spivey. Mr. Spivey, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, Tom, great to be on with you, man. Please call me OJ. My grandfather, Mr. Spivey.
Got you covered. First and foremost, again, thank you for making your appearance on the show. I do not take opportunities like this for granted, so I'm definitely going to be kind and respectful of your time, my friend. First and foremost, how are you? How are things with your family, so on and so forth?
I'm doing great, man. Been pretty busy, booked and busy. So you caught me on a good night, thankfully. But I'm glad to be here to be on your show, and it's an honor to be a guest tonight. So
yeah, for sure. When I reached out to you, you said, "Yeah, I heard some things about you." I was like, "Oh shoot!" I was like, hopefully good things. Hopefully good things.
Yeah, all good things. I promise.
For sure. So I mean, let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time. The people know why they're here. OJ, you are in the locker room regularly when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. I've seen you speaking to guys like Nakobe Dean, Zack, Baun, Jihaad, Campbell. You tend to find the diamonds in the rough as far as conversation points with these guys. I don't know if you catch them, right when they're about to walk out. It just seems like it just seems like you find these very intimate moments and get these moments with these guys. Just Walk me through, your experience as a reporter covering this Philadelphia Eagles team. How long have you been covering them? And just walk us through your style and how you get some of these close encounters with the players.
Well, that's a great question, Tone. Well, first thing is, this is my fourth season actually covering the Eagles, or covering games for the Eagles, being at the link and those things. So pregame, postgame, all those things. So when you go in the locker room, it's really a free for all. I don't know if you could just notice that. Excuse me, you could just notice that from all the clips that you see and all. And we're almost like waiting outside of the locker room, like we're like going into the gates of hell or something like that. But it's a free for all. Of course, there's plenty of other reporters and sports writers and everything trying to get what they can, especially post game, or even sometimes if I make some of the practices, and just try to get perspective from the players. And it's been a really good experience, and I've developed a good rapport with a couple of players. And to kind of go deeper into your question, Tone, sometimes you will catch them going out. Like when I talked to Reed Blankenship and everything, he was literally on his way out the door. He saw, man, make it quick, make it quick. His country accent and all, but their guys are great. I mean, for the most part, they've always been great to me. And another thing too, when you're in that locker room, I'm one of the few that look like me. I look like you, so it's unique in that way. So I try to use that to my advantage sometimes, and just try to relate to most of the players. And thankfully, they remember me. It doesn't take much to remember
Right.
someone who looks like me amongst all the other reporters, respectfully. But I just try to get perspective, and I try to ask questions that maybe others don't, or questions that I believe that my readers or my followers want to know. Because again, I'm a Philly native. I'm from West Philly, so
Okay.
I'm equally vested too. Even though I have to, like, put my fandom, to keep my fandom to a minimum and everything, be objective, right? Even though nobody can be totally objective, it's impossible. But human nature doesn't allow for it. But anyway, unless you don't have, you're from somewhere else, and you moved here and you covered Eagles, so honestly, naturally, you won't be as vested, right? So, but anyway, yeah, I just try to get things from players. I just try to ask questions that aren't mundane, or questions where I won't get a one word answer, or to
Right.
where they'll look at me like I'm crazy. I just try to relate to them as much as I can, and again, and just kind of bridge the gap from uh, reporter to fan, from a Philly perspective, knowing that I'm from here, and how much the people who read my stuff or who follow me love the Eagles, and they want, a different perspective than what they usually get.
Yeah, I think to your point, in reading your work and just seeing how you navigate the locker room and how you navigate your press conferences, even how you frame and lace your questions, right? The one theme that permeates throughout to me is your level of fairness. It seems to me that in your questioning, in your perspective about said player or said team or said situation, it just seems like you always have this thread of humanity and fairness in delivering the message. Again, you're a reporter, you're a journalist, and in this day and age, it's super easy to chase the carrot, right? Super easy. How do you balance being entertaining and exciting with being fair and showing a level of commitment to the players and their well-being?
Well, I think you made some great points, Tom, as far as being fair. I talked earlier about the whole objectivity part of it. Even though there's some, you have to be objective to be, I think, a good reporter, and to have longevity in this business, you have to be. But I don't believe necessarily in objectivity more than I believe in fairness. And you also said another word that I truly live by, and that's humanity. Whenever I go in that locker room, or wherever I'm, even if it's just training camp, or I run into a player or a coach or anyone, even if I cover things like entertainment or something like that. I never forget the humanity of the subject that I am interviewing because, again, at the end of the day, they are people, they're human, and they're prone to make mistakes. And one of the hardest things for me is covering a game after a loss
Mhm.
because most of us got, well, a lot of them don't even want to talk to you. And I say not, when I say you, I mean us, as far as they don't want to talk to reporters anyway, and they're
Mhm.
very guarded, um, even with wins. So it can be challenging even in a loss because I almost got into it with, maybe some of my colleagues and all, as far as saying, hey, even if I'm covering something like baseball or something that, and you ask them, okay, what did you see on that pitch? And a common baseball player, they might get smart and they probably just say, oh yeah, I see it and I hit it. Or it's like, okay, well, what did you see on that pass? I saw it come and I caught it. So I try to avoid questions like that, even though those are standard questions. You know, uh, what what else happened leading up to the pass or leading up to um, the catch or leading up to the tackle or the interception and everything. So I never lose sight of the humanity part.
Mhm.
But it's I think it's a skill, but it also starts with just being yourself. And I think a lot of people in this business aren't themselves, and they do, like you said, chase the carrot, and they're quick to go viral and all. And I know sometimes their livelihood depends on that, but that's just not me, and that's not something that I would want to have my livelihood depend on because also too, if I had to become the story or I have to chase this and I have to chase that, there is some level of chasing. But thankfully now that I'm a columnist, I don't have to do that as much. But chasing, just for a living, just over the years, is just not for me. So I'm kind of happy and I'm kind of fortunate that I'm at this level. But you do have to be competitive in a sense to get sound bites because, like you said, um, I have interviewed diamonds in the rough, right? Um, that's simply because out of necessity, because naturally everybody's want to go to Saquon Barkley's locker. Everybody's want to go to AJ Brown's locker, Jordan Mailata's locker, because they are the most popular players, so to speak. So, I mean, there are times where, I've gotten Barkley after a game, and I just happen to be lucky because everybody may happen to be AJ Brown's locker, which I think is two lockers down. But I think it's just as important to get someone like a Keely Ringo or a Sidney Brown, who's actually
Mhm.
interesting interview, by the way.
I can
even though
imagine.
he's even though he's a small guy, he looked like he could certainly knock somebody out. And you know, but those are interesting players too. So people tend to talk to Jalen Carter more than you talk to Jordan Davis. But I learned a lot from Jordan Davis in his first couple years and how much Fletcher Cox has been a mentor to him. So
Mm.
to just get those little nuggets and share that and everything and combine that with the superstars, I think that makes for um, I won't say content is the word, but that makes for maybe a good article or a good column to, give people a little insight.
Yeah, for sure. Covering the Philadelphia Eagles, they're what I like to call they're the gift that just keeps on giving, right?
Absolutely.
A team
Win
that
or
has
lose.
win or lose, but for a team that's won so much, they're so polarizing.
Hmm.
And for many reasons, Jalen Hurts is one of the most polarizing quarterbacks in football. I wouldn't say intentionally, but he's just a guy that his name just sparks a ton of debate. AJ Brown, same thing. Jalen Carter, same thing. Saquon Barkley, same thing. This Eagles team is littered with polarizing individuals, who have an immense level of talent. When you think about the way the Eagles season has gone with the 4-0 start, although it was rocky. Then you had the 2-game losing streak where they got embarrassed. Then you had the 2-game winning streak where they had a resurgence to their former selves. What's been your opinion on how the Philadelphia Eagles have been covered over the course of these past 8 weeks? Because again, to me, as a former Super Bowl champion, I question how much grace and respect they're being given, in particular when it comes to Jalen Hurts. What's your thoughts on how the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, and we can even throw in AJ Brown in the conversation because today was a big day for him with that story. But let's just take it piece by piece. Let's start with the Eagles as a whole. What's been your opinion on how the Eagles have been covered over the past 8 weeks, being the reigning Super Bowl champions?
Ooh, where do we start? I think one of the big misconceptions of covering this team or how this team has been is that they came into the season as a perfect team, and they're not. I mean, they're really a different team. And not to sound like coach speak and all, but Super Bowl champions, that was last year. Well, the 2024 Eagles, that was last year. It's been a lot of turnover, especially on defense. And again, you had turnover at the offensive coordinator position. And there was going to be a level of or a period of orientation. Some people call it an extended preseason, but that's just the reality because you only play 3 preseason games, and the starters, they don't even really play in the preseason. So a lot of people take that as an excuse, but it is also a bit of a reality and part of the story. So it was going to take time for Kevin Patullo to ascend as offensive coordinator because he's just new at the job. Even though he's been in the building for several years, he's new at the job. And even I made a point where this was something that was underreported, a couple of things that are underreported, that Jalen said himself right after the Super Bowl when I wasn't there that day, but reporters came to him and said, okay, what do you think about Kevin Patullo potentially being the offensive coordinator? He said, and of course he caught himself because he's probably more guarded than anyone else, that he paraphrased and said that he may not be ready for the job. And I
Really?
don't think that was a knock on him. Yeah, it's on video. You can just look back at it. He said he may not be ready for the job in so many words. And it doesn't say that he's not qualified or he wouldn't do well at it, but he pretty much said that it's going to be a new role for him. And I think you can read
Mm.
between the lines. It says, okay, it's going to take some time for him to grow into the job. And someone that's smart and a veteran quarterback, this is even despite being Super Bowl MVP, someone that's smart and is savvy and a veteran as Jalen Hurts, he is keen enough to not only know that, but express that. And people probably even took it the wrong way, saying, oh, yeah, he's not qualified. But I don't think that was the case. And he was public enemy number one even when they were winning. But it's going to take some time. And then again, on the defensive side, you don't have a Milton Williams, you don't have a Josh Sweat. You have that turnover. No Darius Slay, no CJ Gardner Johnson, all those guys. So it was going to take a few weeks for this defense to gel. And I think the people on your chat said that, okay, we're spoiled as a fan base, and I think we are. And I think Vic Fangio even spoiled us because the defense was so great last year, and they put on such a you know uh, such a murderous performance during the Super Bowl and even in the NFC Championship game that, okay, maybe we expect this every week, but that's not realistic with all of the turnovers. So I think they're in great shape overall, being 6-2. And I thought these last 2 games against the Giants and against the Vikings were just as important as the first 4 games. And the first time around with the Giants, that was an embarrassing loss, and they deserved all the criticism in the world because I thought they just looked unprepared. The
Yeah.
Broncos, you could probably say, looking back on it now, they're a good team. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. So, I mean, you could probably take that loss as okay. That's probably, a legitimate loss, even though they had a chance to win that game as well. So,
Right.
but I think overall they're in good shape considering that everybody was on edge to say, okay, maybe this is another Super Bowl hangover where he had PTSD from the 2023 season, which I think is apples and oranges.
Yeah, that's when people bring up the 2023 season, I just feel like there's so many nuances that are just
Mm,
excluded from that conversation. I mean, you have so
right.
much more experience from a coaching perspective on that defense, right? And that offense, believe it or not, was a top 10 offense in 2023. They just were a little dysfunctional or a little herky-jerky, I guess you'll say, but
Right.
defense was their real problem in 2023.
Exactly.
And that offense was constantly being put behind the 8 ball. Bringing it back to the 2025 campaign, we discussed the way the Eagles have been covered. Let's hone in a little bit more the Jalen Hurts angle of it. You know, Jalen Hurts has been a guy who's been, again, I say polarizing, not by any fault of his own, just a guy that is very measured, very buttoned up, very professional. He's the kind of guy that can run your CEO company. He's the kind of guy that you wouldn't mind your daughter taking a prime or marrying. He checks all the boxes. Just from the aesthetic, the way he carries himself. He's very business oriented, very very self aware, very intentional, and he's a guy who came into the league with a chip on his shoulder that was kind of developed just based off his experiences.
Mhm.
Obviously, being benched in Alabama, then having a resurgence to Oklahoma, stayed at Alabama, got his bachelor's, got his master's from Oklahoma. He's a guy who's educated. He's a guy that's really built himself up from year one, from his first year starting in 2021 to now. I mean, he's not even the same player, and like it's no comparison to what he was in 2020 and 2021, right? Why doesn't a guy like that sell as much as he should to the masses? I feel like he's the most relatable guy to America than, I don't know, a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen, guys that were gifted with everything, all the gifts, the height, the size. Or to me, Jalen Hurts is what you aspire to be. Jalen Hurts is what movies are written about.
Yeah, it's a number of things, and I think you hit it right on the head, Tone. And you must have been in the room, or you must have had our room bugged when I interviewed Mike Quick a couple months ago, because what you said about Jalen Hurts, how you described him, he's everything that you would want, a young man to be, someone you would want to run your company or marry your daughter, or so to speak. He checks all those boxes. That's really exactly what Mike Quick said to me when I interviewed about Jalen Hurts and how special that he is. And I think that we have to sit back and realize that he is special. And special can mean a whole lot of things. But going back to your initial point, or initial question, he doesn't fit the part. He doesn't fit the part of what uh, most people still believe a quarterback should look like. All right. I wrote a column a few weeks ago, and I'm saying that okay, we have a lot of us. Well, not me personally, but a lot of football fans have an idea of what a quarterback is supposed to look like,
Mm.
and he doesn't fit any of that. He checked all the boxes that you just mentioned, but for in a lot of people's eyes, okay, a lot of Eagles fans eyes, he doesn't check those boxes because he doesn't look the part. And I wrote that he is that one aspiring actor that he goes into every audition and he nails it, right? But when you're a casting director or you're the producer and everything, you have in mind who you want that lead actor to be.
Mm.
But when Jalen Hurts walks into that audition, he nails it every freaking time. And the guy that you had in mind, you have to cast at that point. You have to cast Jalen Hurts in every role that he auditions for because he nails the interview. He nails the audition. You have to hire him. And the person that you had in mind, the prototype that you wanted for that job, you can't hire that guy because Jalen Hurts just overwhelms you every time.
Mm.
And that's what happened initially when he went into the NovaCare Center. And that's why Carson Wentz is no longer here. And I mean, I know what the years have passed with that. And, these were things that I was told, and I wasn't even really covering the team like that then. But I knew as soon as he walked into the door, Carson Wentz's days were done. And also, you had to factor in, too, Wentz was supposed to be the quarterback for 10, 12, 15 years here. And when that happened, in a lot of people's minds, they could not they could not process that quick change. But that's how great a personality Jalen Hurts is. That's how hard a worker he is. And
Yeah,
another thing that's also unreported, real quick, Tone,
yeah.
is he's a son of a coach. How how much do you even hear people talk about that? I've written about that. A couple other people have written about it, but you never hear that in the broadcast. You never hear that. You never read that in most articles, on the sports talk shows, the talking
Yeah.
heads, everything. You never hear of that. But if he was white with blonde hair and he was the son of a coach, you wouldn't hear the end of it.
Yeah, you're on to something. You know, a guy like Jalen Hurts, he's the kind of guy that if you're around him long enough, it who you are will be exposed more than who he is. Like he just seems like
Absolutely.
the kind of guy that he filters out his life very well. But again, being the franchise quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles and delivering the way he has on the contract, because my whole mindset is when you draft a guy, the number one question you should be asking yourself: above how beautiful a ball he throws, can I win with this guy? Can this guy win the
And
big
what
one?
has he done since he's been here? All he's done was win.
All he does is
And
win.
it's all he cares about. I've talked to teammates. I've talked to some of the people who cover him. Okay. Even, the few times that I've gotten a chance to ask questions of Nick Sirianni, all Jalen Hurts cares about is winning. He really doesn't care what it looks like. And that's another problem that a lot of fans have. We're so caught up, and a lot of this is probably Philly too, but because again, I've been here all my life, so right. But we want winning to look a certain way. Okay, we want our offense to look a certain way. We want our defense to look a certain way. I mean, there's a time where fans wanted Eagles defense to blitz on every single play because they go back to the
I
Buddy
remember.
Ryan
I remember those days. I remember that.
days. Full blitz, all out blitz every day, every play, I should say, right? And then they want the offense to, score 40 points a game and then have over 500 yards of offense. I mean, that's all pretty, but does that week after week resonate into or equate to winning football games? I mean, you have a lot. I've seen a lot of quarterbacks. I've watched football for well over 40 years. I've seen a lot of quarterbacks throw for 4,000 yards, 5,000 yards. Some make it through. Some make it to the Super Bowl, the Tom Brady's of the world, or Patrick Mahomes of the world. But it's really Jalen Hurts is now he's into, if you even want to call him elite, he's into elite company. He's into rare company. And I wrote and I posted at nauseum what he did even winning the Super Bowl, just to even get back to the Super Bowl and win it after
That's what I'm
losing.
saying. The
He's won
story.
over 4 quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era, 4 quarterbacks. And he's the first one to do it since I was in diapers.
OJ, the story itself, to lose the way they did, perform at that level and lose, and then you have the 2023 season and you guys stumble, then you come back in 2024 and you rise like a phoenix. I mean, there's something poetic about the Jalen Hurts journey that I just feel like every man, every woman
Absolutely poetic.
should have no problem supporting. But nonetheless, tribalism in sports exists, and it's hard for people to, let go of their priors, right? And a guy like Jalen Hurts, people don't want to let go of the fact that he was benched for Tua. Well, Tua's making it very easy to forget about that. But
and one more thing, Tone, just to add to just the history of it, just the fine history. I watched Dan Marino. I was a big Dan Marino fan, big Randall Cunningham fan. He never made Super Bowl, of course. But Dan Marino he was like light years ahead as far as quarterbacks is concerned. And when he went to the Super Bowl in 1984, and he lost to the 49ers, got blown out by the 49ers. And they said, oh, yeah, he'll be back. He'll be back. He never got back to the Super Bowl. Never. I mean, you can go into, you can debate why he didn't or why he never did. He still had a phenomenal Hall of Fame career, but he never got back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
John Elway, he didn't win after he went there 3 times and lost. And it wasn't until he had a running game with Terrell Davis that he finally won a Super Bowl. You can get there. You can get there multiple times. But to get there once and lose and get right back within 2 years.
Not
and
many.
we don't get us guy the credit. People saying, oh yeah, he gets carried and everything. Every Super Bowl winning quarterback gets carried. Everyone. Even Tom Brady when he won in Tampa Bay. All right. That defense won that Super Bowl.
Yeah, technically his best year with Tampa Bay was the final year in Tampa Bay. Statistically,
Exactly.
you know
I
what I
think
mean?
he's threw for over 5,000 yards.
Yeah,
His
led
first
the
couple years in New England and everything. I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
he orchestrated the comeback to win the Super Bowl, but that was a defensive team.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
mean, we also when we take into account Jalen Hurts and what he's accomplished, we also have to look at history and how much he's defied it. And again, I wrote about it. So and it's there. It's this is just not all my opinion. It's based
right.
on history. And I'm a huge student of history with sports, especially in NFL.
Yeah, for sure. Again, like I said, your fairness for Jalen Hurts is one of the things that attracted me to your writing, and just your your tweets
Thank
and
you.
so on and so forth. Um, Now, and everything we said about this Eagles team and how they become the standard for winning, how consistent they've been, how spoiled Eagles fans have been, even a little insecure about being successful. The Jalen Hurt, the Jalen Hurts arc and everything he stands for, how he's conducted himself and everything he cares about as far as developing himself and developing his team and what they've been able to accomplish as a whole. Why do people think AJ Brown wants to leave something like this? Because obviously we know how AJ Brown has conducted himself when the team isn't playing up to their potential. And I've always argued with people, hey, well, maybe you don't like the way he did it, but ask yourself, was he wrong about what he said? And for the most part, he's been right in his sentiment, but maybe people have felt he's been wrong in his execution. So AJ Brown, a new article today dropped via the Athletic in the New York Times. It was written by Brooks Kubina. Um, Very strong article. Gave people a lot of insight, but I felt like it was things I already knew, mainly because when AJ Brown speaks, I tend to listen. And everything he mentioned in that article, as far as getting a thrill from beating his opponents and um, wanted to be one of the greatest, wanting to be dominant, how much work he puts into his craft, and how much he loves winning, and how much he wants to be a part of winning, and how much he loves his guys and wants to be the guy to take all the bullets for the team when things go wrong. He's worn that on his sleeve since being here, and it's become more exposed over the past year and a half, probably since when he called in the WIP that one day and kind of set the record straight a bit. But AJ Brown has kind of had this weird relationship with the city, this weird relationship with the media. What's been your perspective on AJ Brown and how he's been covered in the city? Do you think he's been given a fair shake? Do you think a lot of the stuff that's going on with him is self-inflicted? Is he misunderstood? How do you do the math when it comes to this equation that is AJ Brown?
Well, it could be all of the above. I mean, he's layered, and he's an interesting individual. He's also a complicated individual. And one of the things that you mentioned an article and all, with respect, um, one of the things that I try to do as a journalist is, listen, I'm an urban kid from West Philly, right? So being black in America is also later too, because being black in the Northeast is a different experience than being black in the Deep South, and that's where AJ
Yes.
Brown is from, right? That's where Devontae Smith is from, um, and to some degree Jalen Hurts, even though he comes from a different dynamic in the Houston area. Um, but this is what I take into account when I try to interview these guys. I asked AJ Brown before last season, before they left for Brazil. I really asked him. This is before we knew any of this, or any possible tension with Jalen Hurts or not getting the ball or anything of that nature. I asked him. I said, "How do you like it here in Philadelphia?" I said, "How's the city treated you?" Because I wanted to ask all those things because it's Philly's a different world, not only from a even though these guys are mostly in South Jersey, right? But I digress. But
No, you're right
how's
though. I
Philly?
mean, Philly is different, and I mean, I'm born and
Yeah,
raised in Philly. I just moved to Texas 2 years ago, but I'm
yeah,
Philly through and through. And my,
yeah.
my wife always says, all y'all from Philly, y'all Philly men, y'all got a lot of healing to do."
Oh yeah. Oh, we do. We do. Oh, for sure. For sure. We can do another show on that alone,
For
right?
sure, for
But
sure.
anyway, but it's a lot of layers there. So that's why I take that into account when I interview these guys, because I
Right.
know they're from a different dynamic, right? But you said a lot of what AJ Brown said is true, but with perspective, right? You had to put it on perspective. But what I try to lay out and what I have laid out is okay, um, he aspires to be the very best in the game. But I look back at AJ Brown's career, his fourth season here at Philadelphia. Not only has he been a Super Bowl champion, he's also been a three-time All Pro, all in Philly, not in Tennessee, all with Jalen Hurts as his quarterback. Okay. He's also got a large extension. And
Twice.
another thing, too, um, he already holds several team records and a couple NFL records. So my question to AJ Brown is, if I when I get a chance to talk to him again, which is very tough because everybody's always at his locker, every win or lose. But my question to him is, okay, what does that look like, right? If this is not enough for you, not getting in the ball enough and everything, but this is something that he had to keep in mind too, because Devontae Smith was already on this team. Giles Goddard was already on this team. The only change within the past 2 years was Saquon Barkley. Okay. And they were already primarily a running team because also Miles Sanders ran for over 1,000 yards.
Swift as well.
DeAndre
Yeah.
Swift ran for over 1,000 yards, right? So they've always had a running game. So, I mean, AJ Brown, he holds the Eagles record for most receptions for a wide receiver. He broke Mike Quick's record for most receiving yards. I mean, he's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. And I think three actually.
Yeah,
So
3
this is all
consecutive
made him
all
all
pro
pro.
seasons. Yeah.
So I mean, what is missing? Does he want? I mean, he's had multiple 90 catch seasons. I mean, does he want to break the all-time catch record? Does he want to have 2,000 yards receiving? What does that look like in the grand scheme of you already being a champion, already being an perennial all pro?
Mm.
So, and again, within the dynamic of the team, I mean, I'm all for records. I'm a historian, by nature.
Right.
And people debated with me during the last week of the season whether Saquon Barkley should go for Eric Dickerson's record, and I said he should not because he had to win 3 games in the playoffs as opposed to 2, and it worked out.
Yeah.
One friend of mine still argues with me saying that I was wrong, but because he was saying, okay, why can't he do both? I said, okay, it's a physical game. You saw how brutal even that playoff game against the Rams was, right?
Yeah.
So in the snow and the elements, and that was, if I can, real quick, Tone.
Yeah, please.
That was one of my favorite games to cover because after that game, I got just so many nuggets because again, the dynamic of being in the Northeast where we were used to snow as opposed to being in the South. For a lot of Eagles players, both black, white, old, young, that was really their first game playing in the elements of snow.
You're right. Yeah,
For
no, you're
Devontae
right.
Smith to look me in the eye and saying that I couldn't see, I couldn't plant, I couldn't cut, that was all. I mean, that was all special because people were wondering why the Rams stayed into that game because it was as much of an obstacle for the Eagles as it was for the Rams. So going back to AJ Brown, I just want to know, okay, what does that look like being the very best? Because there are a lot of wide receivers in the NFL who are the very best, and they have no chance to win the Super Bowl. Look at Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. They're looking for a quarterback right now.
You could take it as far as to say Myles Garrett in Cleveland.
Perfect example.
And he took the money. And he was, remember, he did that he did all that peacocking at Radio Row at the Super Bowl, walking around saying, hey, we're looking for a team that, the Eagles would be a team I'd be interested in. He was sitting with me in Kimes, just running off the mouth.
I ain't mad at it in a sense because again, with the NFL, the average career span is what, between 3 and 4 years. So you want to get the money, but
hey, get your money,
OJ. How do you balance that, right? Being the very best at your position, or do you want to win? It's It's a fine line.
It's
And,
tough.
I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions either as a player or even as an executive, because
Yeah.
those are tough decisions. But again, my only question to AJ Brown is, and I really didn't think about it this deep until you asked me, Tone. So thank you.
Mhm.
But what does that look like? I need to.
Well, I mean, you tweeted about it. You
Yeah.
said it. You essentially said, "Hey, you've done this, you've done that. You're decorated. What
Well,
more?
well
What more is
accomplished.
there? What more is there to do except just keep playing and stay at this pace?"
If you're named All Pro, whether you're first team or second team, okay, you're literally named one of the top 5 receivers in the league. Okay, do you want to go from second team All Pro to first team All Pro? And what does that look like in sacrifice of the team?
Mm,
Okay, are you going to get 130 catches? Does that mean that Saquon Barkley has less carries? And then, you know, how does that go into the grand scheme of winning games and winning another championship?
right.
And maybe for some players, a championship isn't all that it's cracked up to be. I mean, he even hinted around that, saying that, okay, that's it. What do we do now? It's back to the grind. And I get it, because, a lot of us are entrenched in, just the work ethic, just
The journey,
working, just
yeah.
to work the journey. Right. And that's something that Jalen has, talked extensively about. And I even feel that way, with my journey in that journalism, so, but my question is, he's not wrong in a sense, in some weeks and all, but they were still winning in spite
Right.
of,
Yeah.
all right.
For sure.
And, you know, and there's an extreme the other way too. And I don't want people get carried away, because some people are saying that, okay, the Eagles had their best game as an offense this year, and that happened to be without AJ Brown, and people are foolishly saying, okay, we can do this without AJ Brown.
Uh,
Perhaps, but I don't want to take that chance.
I'm
I don't think
first of
he's
all, I'm
going
not gonna.
anywhere, by the way, but
Yeah,
that's another
neither do
story.
I. And with all due respect, like I think that Giants win was a big win because
Yeah.
of how bad they beat you last time. It was a big win for that reason alone. But that game in the vacuum, I'm not using that game as a reason to validate trading AJ Brown. I'm not.
And
Not in
nobody
any shape,
should.
way, or form.
Nobody should.
Yeah. Um, just got a couple more for you, OJ. You giving me
Sure.
so much of your time already, man. I definitely don't want to abuse it. Uh,
It's all good.
one
All good.
more on the AJ Hurts dynamic, and then we'll transition to kind of just the where the Eagles fit into the landscape of the league right now.
Mhm.
Um, with everything AJ Brown has brought to the Eagles, not just on the field but off the field, right? He's been an advocate for mental health. Mental health. He's been very transparent about his own journey as well. Even was
Right.
transparent about the thought or even the attempt of taking his own life. Right. He's been transparent about his relationship with his mother or lack thereof. He's been transparent about the idea of what friendship is to him. And a lot of fans tend to project and form their own opinions on what the Jalen Hurts AJ Brown dynamic or friendship was or is. And Seth Jordan said something that was very key to me. He said, regardless what AJ's doing, there's only 2 people in the building you need to be worried about: the head coach and the quarterback. If the head coach and the quarterback are rocking and rolling and everything's cool, what AJ Brown's doing is a non-question, non-starter. But the moment things become too much for the head coach or the quarterback, that's when you start to hear furniture start to get moved. So
Right.
I guess with you being in the locker room, and I know your knowledge only extends but so far, and I know you have relationships to protect. What would be your assessment of the AJ Brown Jalen Hurts dynamic as it stands today? Again, I understand your position, but if you can give us any sort of insight as to what you may believe or what your strongest guess is about that dynamic, that'd be fantastic for the people.
Well, I think one, we none of us really know specifically. We can only go by, the body language on the sidelines, and, whether they're dapping each other up, and, people made light of, okay, Jalen Hurts was not present for off the field for AJ Brown's engagement, or, he wasn't seen in the photos. And we also have to take into a perspective too, take into account also, is that media only shows us what they want to see, what they want us to see.
Mm,
Eagles only show us what they want to see. Everybody is so Anxious to see the Hard Knocks program for the NFC East. I think a lot of people won't be disappointed because nothing goes through editing without the owner seeing it, without the head coach seeing it. Definitely Howie Roseman, also definitely Jeffrey Lurie. None of that is going to go through Final Cut without the Eagles seeing, right? And the NFL has to see it as well. So, you might see a few things here and there just for entertainment purposes, but we're probably going to be disappointed. But here's the thing, and I'm going to keep the hood with you, right? I'll keep this in the family and our culture, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is, and we'll probably never know this, but Jalen Hurts is the godfather of AJ's daughter,
Right.
right? And we know how special that is in our community. Okay, we don't just name anybody godmom, godfather, especially godfather, right? Godmom is another thing, right?
Yeah.
That could be a little more loose or a little more, interchangeable. But a man naming, your boy, your friend, godfather of your child, especially your daughter, right?
Yeah, that's not transactional. That's
Yeah,
genuine love.
Exactly. If I had any insight on what that relationship is still like, okay, how tight is that? Okay, is he still going to the birthday parties? Is he still going to, the what was that, the milestones that a godparent would, with that perspective of what you have to do work wise. If I had any insight on that, that would be the measurement. Because again, we're keeping it in the culture here. We're keeping it in the hood in our community.
Right.
That's where I would have a better measurement. And you can't measure that from anything on the field or whatever. But to Jalen's credit, he has to keep, he has to keep an even kill. He has to keep a fine line because he's in charge of the entire offense, right?
The entire
So
team.
he has to make sure AJ Brown gets the ball just as much. He has to make sure that Goddard and Smith, and to a degree, Dotson has to get the ball. So he's doing the right thing and he's saying all the right things. But we'll probably never know until, something that they allow us to see. So, I mean, I can't even really speculate on that. And I apologize that
No, you're fine.
I don't have a bit of a bombshell or anything like that. But from going back to the locker room, all that we talk about, and I know all that they tell us is that they want AJ Brown on the team. And I mean, maybe they have to say that to a degree, but I have to go by what they say until we're proven otherwise.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what you're saying, look, the Eagles are significantly better with AJ Brown. Jalen Hurts knows that. Nick Sirianni knows that. This whole team knows that. Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, has been voted a captain 2 years in a row by this team. If he was somebody that they deemed as a liability or somebody that they deemed as somebody they couldn't trust or rely on in any shit, way, or form, if he wasn't a high character dude, this Eagles team would not even be voting for him. On top of that, the Eagles have been very diligent about their vetting process when it comes to not just hiring coaches or people for the front office, but even players. Think of
Jalen Carter.
Yes.
And everybody missed out on him.
And every now and again, they will zig when everyone else zags, right? Jalen Carter was supposed to be the problem child of the NFL. And the Eagle, and that's not to say he hasn't had his fair share of issues throughout his career with the Eagles, but I think all things considered, the Eagles have handled the Jalen Carter situation very well, and they're Super Bowl champions because of it. I think they've been handling the AJ Brown situation as well as they can, and they're Super Bowl champions because of it. Again, we're talking about two professionals, guys who we all got that family member that it's love. It's love, but damn it, when they talk, you got to make sure you put them to the corner and say, "Listen, man, this ain't what you think it is. Let's bring it in." But it's love, and again, this team, people make a lot of assumptions about these guys, and I try to always, and I appreciate you actually for saying, "Look, I ain't got nothing profound about these guys." As far as I'm concerned,
I don't have an answer. No, and I'm not going to try to fake like I do.
And that's my
irresponsible on my and that'd be irresponsible on my part. Even when you're talking X and O's, and I have a I have a pet peeve, and I think the worst thing that the NFL has ever done was make the all 22 available.
He was gonna say one thing I will say though, I use that all 22, but I definitely don't proclaim myself to be some
I think you might.
guru. I'm very clear about that.
One thing I talk to young Jones all the time, and one thing I tell them, one of the other things I try to tell them, among other stuff, is know what you don't know.
Yeah,
that's gonna take you a long way.
and remain teachable.
Remain teachable and everything. Don't think, because football is one of the things, right, where if you get on film and you post this, you post that, and 12 personnel, 13 personnel zone, all that kind of stuff, it's going to make you sound smart, even if you don't know what the hell
you
you're
could sell
talking
it for
about.
sure. You could definitely sell it. Somebody gonna buy it.
When I talk to players and I talk to coaches, they literally laugh at this stuff. They really do. They literally laugh, because most of these guys cancel each other out, and ultimately they don't know what they're talking about. But I digress.
No, for sure, for sure. Last one, OJ. Then I'll let you go, my friend. The
Sure.
Eagles are 6-2, right?
Mm-hmm.
They stand at the top of the NFC East right now. It looks like they're poised to be the first repeat champions since God knows how long, in over 20 years.
I'll be shocked if they don't. Yeah.
Exactly, at this point, right? They have such a commanding lead on the division. But then when you zoom out from the division and you start to look at the conference, right? You look at what the Colts and the Patriots are doing, right, in the AFC, the Broncos, so on and so forth. We all know the Bills and the Chiefs are always going to be there in the end. But then when you get to the NFC side, a little more closer to home for the Eagles, you got Green Bay, who's the top of the conference right now. Albeit it's because of that tie. Nonetheless, they're at the top of the conference. You got the Eagles, who are the second seed, Tampa Bay, who's the third seed, Seattle the fourth, Detroit the fifth, Rams the sixth, 49ers the seventh, the Bears are the eighth right now. When you look at the landscape of the NFC, who do you believe are the biggest threat to the Eagles repeating as Super Bowl champions? And where do you see the Philadelphia Eagles fitting into that pecking order? Because after this bye week, the litmus test officially begins, right? You were able to take care of the Rams in dramatic fashion. You beat the Buccaneers. Those are crucial games when it comes to tiebreakers in the end. But next up, you got Green Bay and Detroit. Many would argue are playing better than those teams I just mentioned. So what's your thought process? How are you evaluating the field right now as it pertains to the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot about the Eagles these next 2 weeks. Of course, they're off this week, but going to Green Bay, which on the surface I think is very winnable. The Lions might be a tough game. I think both these teams are the biggest threats, like you said. Do I think they're existential threats? Not necessarily, because I think the Eagles will be. They have a great opportunity to hit their stride as they have this winning streak, and Nick Sirianni has been very good off of buys. You know what I mean? Even like the mini buy that they had, when they played the Vikings and all. But I think Green Bay is good, but they still have to prove it to me come playoff time, because I don't think Green Bay anymore is such a home field advantage. And for me, with the Lions, I know they're tough, I know they're physical, but with the quarterback, with Jared Goff, I mean, he has to prove it to me too. I don't trust Jared Goff when the money is on the line. I mean, they look fantastic during the regular season and all, and they look like they've recovered very nicely after the departure of Ben Johnson after the shaky week one. But can Goff get the Lions back to the Super Bowl? You see, he wet the bed in the playoffs against a Cinderella Washington team, which they're not doing as good this year. But if the Eagles can get out of this, winning both games, or even just going 1-1, I think they're still right there, because the NFC is still wide open. I think.
OJ, I think I lost your audio, OJ. Let me see. Yeah, I think I lost your. Let's try to bring you back on. Yeah, I'm hearing like a staticky issue, OJ, with your mic at the bottom. Yeah. There we go. I think we got you back. Now I can't hear you. Is unmute. Just unmute yourself and you're good.
There we go. How about now?
Perfect.
Sorry about that.
No,
Yes, so just to finish my point.
Yeah, sorry about that, you guys.
I think again, this is going to be a litmus test, as you said, these next 2 weeks. But I don't think it's insurmountable that they could win both of these games. They could lose both, and they could split, or they could win both. But I'm leaning towards more of at least a split, or maybe even winning 2 games. And then if they can do that, they'll definitely have a great cushion in the NFC. But my focal point is that I'd rather them start to peak now in this last half of the season. And you see, they're very capable of going on long runs. They've done that, last couple of years. And there's nothing that I see, especially if they get AJ Brown back, where they can't duplicate that, because I think they're now figuring things out, first offensively and certainly defensively. And let's not forget, I think Nakobe Dean being back in that starting lineup, I think, is very important as far as the run defense is concerned. So we'll see. It could go either way, but I'm confident that the Eagles can come out of this at least being the number 1 seed if we're talking playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And, they've proven that they can get there without the number 1 seed, as they did last year.
True.
Now, granted, they had the entire home cooking the entire way because of the way the seeding fell.
Right.
With Washington upsetting Tampa Bay the way they did, and also upsetting Detroit. That gave
they've already had big quality wins on the road. So.
Exactly. So this is a very interesting time for the Philadelphia Eagles right now, especially knowing what we know, how things have transpired, where they are now, and where they could potentially be. It's really exciting. It's an exciting time to be a Philadelphia Eagles fan. It's an exciting time to be an NFL fan. There's a lot of 5-2, 6-2 teams. The parity is at an all-time high right now. So, you guys, get your popcorn ready. You know what I mean? Rest up. It's a bye week, so now you get to watch some guilt-free football this week. You know what I mean?
Relax.
Matter of fact, speaking of that, since I got you here, right? You're a Philly guy. I got to sneak one last in for you, man.
Sure.
What's your thoughts on the Maxey VJ Edgecombe dynamic right now? I like what I'm saying between those guys.
What are they saying now? VJ Max?
VJ Max?
Yeah, I think somebody's thought of that. Hopefully I'll get in trouble if it's not trademarked or whatever. But anyway, I saw VJ in the preseason, and he's a fantastic athlete, and he could be just as good of a basketball player. I mean, he's playing like a 5-year vet right now. He's playing like he's been in the league as long as Maxey has.
OJ, he's affecting the game.
Right,
like,
in many ways, both ends of the court. And I think for the first time, and I know time will tell, but I think the Sixers, Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse, they put together a great athletic team. And I think that is so important in today's NBA, for these guys to get up and down the floor, for them to come back the other night against Washington after that back-to-back. I mean, that says a lot. But Maxey, I mean, we could be talking first team all NBA. He's leading the league in scoring right now. I mean, those only 4 games and all, but I mean, 37.5 right now. Yeah.
And VJ, he's definitely a front runner for Rookie of the Year. Obviously, Cooper Flagg is only getting it because of the name alone, but
exactly.
VJ's been the better player by far as production goes and just affecting winning.
And quickly, Embiid, I like what they're doing with Embiid, and I know,
I kind of like it too.
Figure in the city, but I like what they're doing, managing his minutes, and I think this is a prototype to probably what they should do moving forward. I know they're probably going to up his minutes and everything, but again, the other night for him to get 27 points, and I think it was 23 points in 20 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 25, 20, it was something like that. But, but you're right. Yeah.
That's super economical, and you're saving his body and all. And finally, it appears that he does not have to be the guy night after night, and you can lean on and you can rely on Tyrese Maxey because he has somebody like Edgecombe on the floor with him. He has someone like a Quentin Grimes, who
Yeah.
I think they need to try to extend, by the way.
Yeah, I like him. I like him as a rotational guy for sure. OJ, man, you've given me so much to really, really digest with this team, man. Eagles and Sixers alike. I appreciate your insight. I'm grateful for your time, my man. Anything you're working on that you got coming out on the horizon that you want to promote?
Well, I'll be covering the Delaware State, Norfolk State game on Thursday. Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson. So hopefully get a couple good interviews with that. Sixers in Boston. I'll try to be there as well. See if they can extend, this undefeated streak. So a lot of good things. And again, booked and busy. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. OJ, thank you so much, man, for your time. I can't wait to bring you on again, man. Definitely going to ring your bell. Maybe in another month or so, just to check your temperature with the Eagles team, especially after that Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, Dallas run, right? So, if you're available, I'd love to have you back on the show.
Nah, no problem, Tone. I mean, thank you for having me on. It's been fun and my pleasure.
For sure. You guys, this has been OJ Spivey from the esteemed Philadelphia Tribune. OJ, thank you so much, man. You take care, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Shout out to OJ Spivey, you guys. That was dope. That was dope, man. OJ is a good dude. It's my first time actually formally speaking with him. We've exchanged messages on Twitter, on X, and OJ, man. Shout out to him, man. OJ the Juice Man. Shout out to OJ. Shout out to him, man. It was a great conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That's our show. That is our show, man. I really enjoyed today's live stream. We haven't had a guest in a long time, so it was pretty cool having OJ on. And I'm definitely going to get back in my interview bag. I know you guys really like that. Shout out to my man S Blunt. He says I'm from the 7-5 plus. He says this one his home, DSU alum, and I'm and I'm CRK. Oh man. Let's see. VA 757 DSU. That's funny. That's funny, Blunt, because a lot of my family went to DSU. My uncle Stevie, my cousin Steve, my aunt Lisa and Rhonda, they graduated from Delaware State. I think they work in admissions. So yeah, man. That's a big game this weekend. Norfolk State and DSU. That's a big game. That's a big game, man. Hey, S Blunt, I don't know how you're gonna get through this one, man. I don't know how you're gonna get through this one, dog. But again, you guys, it's been a phenomenal show. Once again, I want to give kudos and show a lot of love and respect to the esteemed OJ Spivey. Over 15 years of journalism and broadcasting experience. Good dude, smart guy, man. And very, very dope perspective. And I just appreciate him taking the time out to come onto the show and again give you guys some great content as well. So again, shout out to OJ Spivey. And it's straight like that, you guys. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel as well. Make sure you hit the hype button as well. The hype button is super important. Helps the show grow. And that's pretty much it, y'all. And we're out of here. I've been your humble host, Tone DeShields II. And you guys have been locked in on Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game.